I'm on, right? All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Zayin, Maseches Rosh Hashanah. Tanta Shelley needs one. So we left off top, the first word, top line. We're talking about the shofar, right? Which the end of the Masechta, we deal with the mitzvah of Tekiyah shofar. So he said, "Upiv mitzupa v'zav." The mouth of the shofar is covered, right, with gold. Zok the Gemara, top line, if you have gold, right, by the mouthpiece, right, by where the mouth goes, it's puzzle because there's a chatzitza, there's a separation between his lips and the shofar, right? So the Gemara says no, shofar must be kosher. So and if it's not the place where it touches his mouth, is kosher. So our Mishnah, that which it says, it's covered with gold, it's gold plated, means not the area where his mouth goes, and it's right after where his mouth is. Right.
He means the mouth of the shofar, but not really the mouth.
Right, now the tip, just a little further out. Exactly. Oh, the gold in there? No, not as much. I hear. Good question. Good point. That was no, we had it yesterday. Yeah, that was. I think it was Abaye. I think it was maybe the sheet of Abaye. His reason. Yeah, fine. All right, very good. So then we said we have two trumpets on the side and the shofar in the middle. So how can you go ahead and blow trumpets and shofar at the same time? How could you go ahead and distinguish between the two sounds? It says by when the Torah is given over. It says by the Luchos says Zachar and Shamar. So he says they were said the Dibur Echad. It was said simultaneously. All right. So right. So which is something. It says over there was miraculous that Zachar Shamar was basically said and heard it simultaneously, which is impossible for one to go ahead and hear two different sounds, to listen to two things at the same time. So that was only occurred through a miraculous event. So how could you hear the shofar from the chatzos? So Grant says, therefore, your marach b'shofar, in the beginning you can't hear the shofar by itself because the two of them are all going at the same time. But then since you're marach, since you continue with the shofar, now the chatzos, therefore it's okay. So Gemara says, you're going to tell me now, according to this, it must be that if you only hear the end of a blow and you don't hear the beginning, it's okay. And also you can infer from there that what? Also that if one hears only the beginning and then the end of it gets cut off, it's okay, right? It's yatsa. So let's see if that's true. Tashma, come listen. So it says there, so we know, or we'll soon see later on, that one basically has to sound a trua blast, and he does a tekiah before and a tekiah afterwards. So you do a tekiah, trua, tekiah, right? And then it goes into the next one, which is also tekiah, trua, tekiah. I forget right now. One second. Please, 1 second. So forget right now for this purpose of between shvar and trua, you have a sound blast in the middle, and there's a tekiah before and a tekiah afterwards. So now, what this case over here is talking about, he continues let's say there has to be a blow of 4 seconds, okay? So he sounds a tekiah, he does the trua, then he does another tekiah for 8 seconds, which is the length of 2 tekiyahs. So maybe that could count as the end of the previous trua and the beginning of the next trua. So it says ein biyad alachas. It's only one, even though it's the length and the size of 2 of them. It only counts as one. Am I? Why is that? You study lebatarti. So should it count as 2? If you don't need to hear the beginning and you don't need to hear or the end that we just wanted to learn. So okay, so the first one you heard the beginning of it, there's just no ending, and the second one you heard the end of it, because it finished and it just didn't hear the beginning of it. It should be okay. So the Gemara says no. We can't chop up a tekiah. So that's different. That's not a good sushta. It's not a good question because over there it's one long tekiah. You can't say that you heard the beginning, not the end, because it's considered to be one long blast. So let's see the next case. Tashma. We're going to go ahead and see this Mishnah at the bottom of at the bottom or on the base and top. So one who goes ahead and he blows into a pit or a cistern or a barrel. Im kol shofar shama. If he hears the actual blast of the shofar yatsa. But if he hears the sound of the echo, right? Shama, la yatsa, he's not fulfilling his obligation. So he says, "Amai, leap it tchiyas tchiya, makme delariv kala." Why don't you say like this? What you hear first is the shofar before the echo is with it, right? So since I heard the beginning of the shofar before the echo ever begins, so this should be a case of where I hear the beginning of a shofar and it should be okay. Why do you say if I heard the echo, right, it's no good? Yeah, I heard the echo with most of the shofar blast, but the beginning of it was just the sound before the echo, occurred. Ella, rather, Gemara says, no, tarti kali mechad gaver l'mishtai, mitrei gaver mishtai. So no, okay. So if you have two blasts from one person, or two sounds, that you can't distinguish. And that was what happened with Shamar v'Zachar. But two different sounds from two different people, that one can go ahead and distinguish. One can hear, even though the shofar and the chatzos is going at the same time, he can hear, this is the shofar and this is the chatzos, and he can hear it. And can you hear one sound if two sounds are coming out, two people at the same time? When it comes to Kriyas Torah, one person reads, then after reads the pasuk, one person says of the targum. And the condition that, I think you take this out, right, that, on the condition that you only have one read, you don't have one read and two do matargum, right? Now, you can't have two people saying over the targum, saying over the taich, the explanation of the pasuk at the same time. Why? Because two people are talking simultaneously. You can't hear one voice. So Gemara says, no. You want to compare it to a case, the shofar, why to hear two sounds and you can hear one from the two is okay? Look at the seif, the end of there. It says Bahalo Megillah. When it comes to Halal Megillah, even 10 people can go ahead and say the Halal together, or 10 people go ahead and read the Megillah together, and you're Yatsa because you can hear one voice there. Alma, why? Since it's Chaviv, it's precious to go ahead and hear the Megillah once a year to hear Halal, right? So therefore, since it's precious, a person can pay attention to one sound or to one voice of multiple ones at the same time. Hachinami, so to over here, since Tkiyah Shofar is special, it's unique, it's once a year, right? Therefore, people can go ahead and pay attention just to the shofar and not to the trumpets. Hachinami came to Chaviv v'yayiv daite, also pay attention to Shama. Elo.
Why do they do this trumpets? Where does that come from? The trumpets.
So the pasuk, we'll see. The pasuk says it's only done by the mikdash. We'll see the answer only done by the mikdash. It mentions that the chatzotzos are also brought. So God says, if that's the case, why do we go ahead and we lengthen the sound of the shofar blast? So to know that the mitzvah of the day is the shofar. All right, so the wide lines, 2 dots, with Hanas, V'shel Zechar, Kfufin. We said on the fast day when people go ahead and gather, so they use the male animals which are rounded, the horns which are rounded, and we cover the end with silver. Why over there do we Rosh Hashanah we go ahead and use gold, and over here we use silver? So the kesef who? Anytime there's a gathering, a public gathering, let's say for the Tanis, we do it with silver because it says it says there, make for yourself two trumpets made of silver. It's the midbar. If I say more, I can say the Torah says, you know what? The price of gold is, I don't know, $1,800 an ounce. Silver is 40. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out. I haven't looked at years, right? So we say, therefore, we don't want you to waste too much money on it. So okay, silver is good enough. So Gemara says, okay. So what about Rosh Hashanah? Right? You just said Rosh Hashanah we have to do gold. Why don't you worry about my money then? So nevertheless, since it's kibbud yantif, therefore, for the honor of yantif, we'll go ahead and make them bring a gold plated or the shofar. Rav Papa Bar Shmuel, he wanted to go ahead and do just like our Mishnah. And Amar le Rava said, Rava lo amru ella b'mikdash. That which we say that you have the shofar, the two chatzotzos, right? The Mishnah we learn, it's only to talk about the mikdash. And Tanya Hachi, something we learn, b'med v'amur b'mikdash. But when it comes to outer areas outside the mikdash, Malkum sheish chatzotzos and shofar, Malkum sheish shofar and chatzotzos, where there's a gathering, they blow trumpets, right, for public fasts, plagues, or whatever's going on, or they need rain, right? So those things, you bring trumpets and not shofar, and that which you bring the shofar, let's say for Yovel, or actually Yovel is done in the mikdash, right? But when you bring for Rosh Hashanah, that In shofar, they only bring the shofar no chatzotzos. V'chein hinig Rabbi Chalifta b'tzipuri. That was the name of Rabbi Chalifta b'tzipuri. Rabbi Chanana ben Chadyan b'sichli. Ukshabah davar eitzel chachamim. When they came to chachamim, Amar loy hayu noagin ella b'shari mizrach b'har habayis bilvad. Right, the only time where they went ahead and a shofar with the chatzotzos on the side was only on the eastern gates on Har Habayis. Bilvad, only those cases. And Omar Ravi Tim Rav Shimon Levi Mikra. What's the pasuk? As Alex asked before. The pasuk says in Tehillim, it says "B'chatzotzos v'kol shofar hari lifnei hamelech Hashem." So the chatzotzos and the shofar you sound lifnei hamelech Hashem. Lifnei hamelech Hashem would be no chatzotzos v'kol shofar. Only the dafka lifnei melech Hashem, i.e. the mikdash. That's when you go ahead and you blow the chatzotzos and the shofar. But if you're not lifnei Hashem or lifnei melech Hashem, then you do not blow both. It's one or the other, shofar or the chatzotzos. Right? And Shavuot Yovel Rosh Hashanah, the Tkiyah of Brachos, he said the Yovel is similar in terms of the amount of blasts. And to the brachos that are said at Rosh Hashanah, we say the 9 brachos when it comes to the Sofin, right? We say the Malchias, the Zichronos, and Shofros, right? Thank you. And Amar Rishul Bar Yitzchak, Kaman Masin, and who is it like? We say Ha'ina Zayim Tchilas Masecha Zikron Yom Harisha. When we say in the beginning of one of the brachas, we say that this is the beginning. Today is the day, right? The beginning of your creation. So come on, that's like the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. But Tishrei, who says on Tishrei the world is created. Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. So Meisiv Ravina Shava Yovel Roshana Tequila Brachos. Our Mishnah says Yovel, the blast is similar to Rosh Hashanah for Yovel to Rosh Hashanah. That's Kia. Well, the brachas, and also for brachas. I va'ika zayam tchiz masach. Zikron yom liyam rishon. Rosh Hashanah Isa u'v'yovel lesa. Well, today is the day where the world is created. It's only said in Rosh Hashanah. It's not said in Yom Kippurim. The world was not created in Yom Kippur. That's 10 days too late. So how, if you're saying it's identical, right, between the brachas and both, so how could you go ahead and say it? So Gemara says no. Kikzoni Ashara. Yes, you're right. We take that part out. That part is not identical because Yom Kippur, or when the Yovel shofar is blown, that the world was not created. Therefore, it's only created. It was only all the other brachos. Those were identical between Rosh Hashanah and Yovel. Rav Shisha Bar Davidi Masni Hachi learned very similar. Rav Shimon V'Yezel Hadatan, that which the Shava Yovel Yoshon Tkiyos brachos, that which the Yovel is similar to Rosh Hashanah when it comes to Tkiyos and the amounts of blasts and the brachos and saying the brachos. Come on, who was that like? Deloy Ki Rebbe Eliezer. It's not like Rebbe Eliezer. The Ki Rebbe Eliezer. Since he holds that Tisha was in the world was created on Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah Isa Yovel. So, but over there, then you can't go ahead and make the statement of today is the day that the world is created because that only applies to Rosh Hashanah, not to on the 10th of Tishrei, right? So the Gemara says no, Kikatani. Once again, that which was written Ashara. It goes on the others, the other brachos. Those are identical. The Malchias, Shofros, and Zichronos. However, you do not say that today was the day that the world was created because it was not created on the 10th of Tishrei. Fine. Naya Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, Shofar, bottom line, Shenizdak, a shofar that was cracked, the Dovko puzzle, and then he glued it together. It's puzzle. And Dibek, so Rashi says glued. Right, glued, right? Right, Bedevik, right? Bedevik shekar and glued, right? And so this is puzzle. So it's an important puzzle because it says the Havile Kishnei shofars. Rashi holds it's 2 shofars. So now that you have one, we saw this structure earlier, 1 shofar, not 2. If you have right pieces that are attached, glued together, right, then it's a problem of 2. And certainly Dibek Shnei Shivrei shofars, and 2 of them broke apart completely, and you put them together, then it's also then it's possible. And Nikav on the page, if there's a hole, and then he went ahead and he fills the hole. So if it changes the sound, in other words, now by you filling it up changes the sound, then it's possible because now basically either we'll soon see if it's made of its own shofar piece. So now it's 2 shofars, right? If it's made from something else, then you now have something else aiding in the sound, and therefore that's also no good. So Imak is a tekiah puzzle, but if it's not, it's the same sound, doesn't change the sound at all, whether you filled it or not, then it's kosher. And we saw this earlier out together. One who goes ahead and he blows into a pit, a cistern, or a barrel. If he hears the sound of the shofar, then he's yotze. He's not really hearing the sound. He rather hears the echo, then he's not fulfilling his obligation. So too, one who walks behind the basic knesses, or shahaya, based on some of the basic knesses, or he lives next door to the basic knesses. The shama calls shofar, and he hears the shofar. Or call Megillah, or he hears, let's say, them reading the Megillah. Im kivan libo. If he says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and fulfill the mitzvah of shofar today, or right now, we're going to fulfill the mitzvah of Megillah. Yatsa. He's fulfilled his obligation because he intended to fulfill it. Being loud, but if he didn't have intentions, he says, "Oh, that's a beautiful sound, but it's nice music." He doesn't have intentions to fulfill the obligation. Then lo yatsa, and therefore it comes out. Two people can hear the same sound. Kivan libo, kivan libo. One says, "This I'm going to fulfill the mitzvah," therefore he has fulfilled the mitzvah. The other one has no intentions of fulfilling the mitzvah, therefore he did not fulfill the mitzvah, even though Lamaisa they both heard the same sound. It's fine. Zok the Gemara. Tana Rabbanan. Beginning of the Gemara. Arach the katzro. A person, if it's a long shofar and he cuts it down, kosher. It's still kosher. Gardu. If he scraped it off a glado, he scraped it off, he still has part of it, he thins it out, or the outside or the inside, kosher, it is still kosher. Really? Because it's still made of the same shofar. It's not from somewhere else. If you went to the covered in gold, if it's the area where his mouth goes on, that's possible. But if it's not where his mouth goes, then it's kosher. If he covers it with gold on the inside, puzzle, then it's possible because it will affect the sound. If he covers on the outside, if it changes, if he covers on the outside with gold, and if it changes the sound because you put gold on the outside, then it's possible. But he put gold on the outside and it doesn't affect the noise, then it's kosher, then it's okay. If it was a hole in it, then he covered it. If it changes the sound by him going ahead and plugging the hole, then puzzle. But if not, then kosher. He puts a shofar in another shofar. Since he's blowing it and the sound comes from the inner one, so therefore it's okay because his air is going into the inside one, and therefore that's the one making the sound. And who cares what's on the outside? It doesn't affect the sound. Therefore, it's yatsa. However, if he hears the outside shofar is really making the noise, and therefore the outside one has a shofar inside it, then lo yatsa. That's not good because now you have the thing that's inside the outer shofar interfering. Yeah.
That's kind of strange with the example that we gave yesterday with the animal that has the layers.
Right. So
because that's not going to be overlapping. It's going to be the layers.
Right. So we said that they're attached. But we said those are attached. Okay. So since it's like one, we said it's okay. That was one of the opinions. It was multiple layers is no good, right? So I says, no, it's not considered to be multiple layers the way it grows. It's considered to be one. And therefore, since it's attached, it's not like a shofar inside a shofar.
It was okay.
Yeah, according to one opinion. One opinion holds we don't use that type of animal because that animal, its shofar appears like it's a shofar of multiple, it's multiple shofars. So it doesn't have, fill the qualifications. And Tan Rabbanan Garden, it's similar we learned in the Bryce, if one goes out and scrapes it from either on the inside, he basically thins it off on the inside, or he scrapes from the outside, outside, kosher, but you still have some of the shofar remaining, then it's kosher. Gardu, if he scraped it and still some of it, kosher. He put a shofar inside a shofar, which is earlier in kol pnei mishama. If he hears the inside one, then yatsa. If he hears the outer one, then lo yatsa. He's not his obligation. If he reverses it, we'll soon see what that means. Then lo yatsa. What does it mean? Reverse it. And Amar Papa like tame the haftu kisutna. Don't say he flipped it inside out. People take those styrofoam cups and they they put them inside out. Right? I can never do it. Right? So we're not talking about. You take a styrofoam cup and people bend it around until they invert it, whatever it is. Anyway, right. So we're not talking about that. Lo tem the hafku that he takes the shofar, right? They soften it where they can sort of make it inside out. Ella the hirkiv is a katzer v'kitzas a rachav. What they do, they soften it, and basically the area where you blow it from that you widen. And the part that was bigger where the sound comes out, that you make it smaller, and therefore you blow from that end, and the other comes out the other end. That's no good. My time was the reason. Could have masna, says right? Then in other words, they go ahead. Basically, that the way you pass it, right? You cause it to pass, and therefore it means that the way it passes, the way it grows, is the natural thing. So therefore, since you blow it, the normal area which is blown, you can't go ahead and blow it from the opposite area. That's no good. Fine. 2 dots. So Dibek Shivir Pasuk, if he goes ahead and he glues them together, it's possible. So Tarabana Haistif Allah Kol Shehu, if he asks to a ben Shubimino, ben Shalabimino, whether it's made of this shofar or something else, other material, puzzle, it's no good. If he has a hole in it and he plugs it, puzzle, it's no good. Now, Rab Nassan, who argues with our Mishnah, Aimer, bimino kosher. You know what? You go ahead, you plug it, bimino, right, with shofar. Then, right, then it's okay. Shalom bimino puzzle. Just shalom bimino is puzzle, right? Now, Rashi points out of here, right, it says bimino kosher. It doesn't change the sound. Okay, so therefore he holds it's not a problem of multiple shofars. Reb Nosson.
Having a hole in the shofar by itself is okay, as long as it makes a sound. Seemingly, that's not a problem. It's not a shalom. So
right. So we're going to soon see Reb Nosson's kula. Now, so Amar Rabbi Yochanan, who shenishtaya rubo, right? In other words, that even before, if before you plug it up, right, and then by basically you plugging it up, it doesn't affect the sound. So therefore, even if you didn't plug it, it would be okay, like you're saying, right? And we say over here, and if majority of it is intact, right, then that was what he's talking about. It was okay, Michlal, Shalom B'mino, that even if it was Shalom B'mino, rubo, even if you had the majority intact, but use an outer substance, right, use some sort of, whatever it is to plug it in, right, rubo and pasul. And some have actually more of a kula. Shalom b'mino pasul. That which we said shalom b'mino pasul is on Rabbi Yochanan who v'shenivches rubo. That's only if it's missing a majority of it. Michlal to b'mino, that if it's b'mino af v'shenivches rubo, even if it had a majority, even if it was missing a majority of it, but he plugged it in b'mino kosher, then it would be okay. And sipui kasef, if he went that and covered it with gold, mibifnim on the inside, pasul. If it's on the outside, so even the shtana kala, if it changes the sound, the way it was before, then puzzle. V'im lav, but if not, then kosher. Then if it doesn't change the sound, then since my air is not touching the gold's on the outside, it's kosher. And these dakla archo, if there was a crack that went the long way on the shofar, then it's puzzle. L'rochvo. If it went around around the circumference, if basically the crack was beyond the shear of the tekiah, then kosher, and it's okay. But if not, that it was too close to the mouth, then it's possible. The kama shear tekiah, how much is the shear tekiah? How large does the shofar have to be? So in other words, you have to be able to hold it in your hand and be able to see the shofar some, on both sides, if you see some shofar sticking out, then it's okay. But if it's so small that if I hold it, that I can't see it on both ends, then it's no good. If the sound of the shofar was deep or was high pitch, was low pitch, right? Then it's kosher. All types of sounds. There's no specific sounds, right? There's a very high pitch one. There's a low one. All of them are kosher when it comes to the shofar. And shalchu le'avu the shmuel. They send it avu the shmuel. Kitchu v'taka. Bo. Yatsa. If he makes a hole in it and he blows in it, then it's yotze. Then it's fulfilled the obligations. He says, what do you mean? Pshita. How do you make a shofar? Right? This shofar it grows on the animal, so you have to open. You have to get all the stuff out, right? It doesn't come hollow. It comes. There's bone inside. So all they make a hole in it. Says Amravashi. Now there's part of the bone that comes off. That is still attached. So that part comes out, right? But that part comes out. But instead of normally that taking out, and then you also hollow it out, you just make a hole in there, right? Almost like a marrow or whatever it is, right? You make a hole in it. Maybe you say the bimino is chaitzitz. Maybe since this bone is a chatzitza, if you just make a hole as opposed to emptying it out, right? Kamash malon, that it is okay. Bimino is ein chaitzitz. And if he goes ahead and blows inside an echo, inside a pit, and he hears the echo is no good. If he hears the shofar, it's okay. And we're talking about the people that are standing outside, but those people are standing in the pit, then yatsa. Then you fulfill your obligation, right? So it's no issue. So therefore, if you're in an area, even though despite us making an echo, right? Let's say you're in the base measures of Skokie Yeshiva, right? So over there, right, the dome, yeshiva, right? It's a yeshiva, but it's called Skokie Yeshiva, the yeshiva of Skokie Yeshiva. Anyway, listen. So it says that even though, but since you're inside of where the echo was occurring, that's okay. But if you're outside, that's what we're talking about. And if one goes in and blows inside a pit or inside a cistern, yatsa, he's filling the obligation. But not lo yatsa, you're not filling the obligation. Rather, it must be like Rav Huna says, they were only talking about people on the outside, because then you're going to have the echo. But if you're on the inside, if you're in the pit itself with the guy blowing, then it's okay. And some don't bring it as a proof, or some use it as a kasha. Tanan, when our mission says you go ahead and blow inside the pit or inside the cistern, you have not fulfilled the obligation. Say we have a price that says that you have fulfilled the obligation. Some Ravuna, says Ravuna like kasha. Those are standing outside. Those are standing outside. Then you cannot fulfill your obligation. But if you're inside where the guy is blowing, then that's where I'm referring to when he says yatsa. All right, we'll stop here. Sunday, Mir Hashem, we'll pick up from here at 6:45. Shkoyach, everybody.